All right, Facebook Live is on, and yes, I was going to actually turn the filter off when I accidentally turned it on, but she said she wanted the hat and the glasses, so let's just do it. Let's roll with it.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to get the show started, and again, this is behind the scenes. Oh, it's about to get going. All right. Welcome to Time for Success Business Owner Moms Edition. This is Matt Barbie, your host, and I have a wonderful guest here, Spring Renee Hanson. And so, Spring, you've got a couple of different businesses. You've got photography as well as farm table creative. Can you please kind of explain all of that?
Sure. So, Matt, thanks for having me today.
Oh, thanks for being on the show.
And I'm an artist, photographer of about 23 years. And it was last fall that I decided to do something different. I was just kind of being called to do something different, something way bigger than just my work. And so we opened Farm Table Creative, which is a multifaceted creative space in O'Fallon, Missouri. We have resident artists there. We have a fine art gallery. We have a prop showroom that goes with the 2 photography studios. So we have a natural light studio and then a lit studio for photographers. We have an event space. We have a coffee bar up front. And did I forget anything? So it's a really enormous project that we've taken on. We opened February 16th. So we're just a little bit over 8 months.
Yeah.
So I still work there as an artist, but my role has switched to wearing a lot of hats.
Right. And the chief everything officer, right? That's your role.
That's the hat.
Yeah, well, that's the hat, right.
It keeps jumping on.
But your future's so bright, you have to wear sunglasses,
That's right.
So that's. And so you've been doing photography for a number of years, but you finally, I think when we talked before, you just you saw an opportunity to be able to create a space for other creative type folks to be able to kind of come together, have a venue for their art, and so tell me a little bit more about kind of how that process happened. You've seen it elsewhere, or was this kind of completely new, fresh idea?
Not a fresh idea. I was a member at the Foundry Arts Center for 6 years.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy that space. Love the studio, but I needed a bigger studio.
Right.
And the opportunity did present itself in O'Fallon. There is not an art center in O'Fallon. So even though we're Farm Table Creative, we're also O'Fallon Art Center. And many of our programs will be going through the O'Fallon community. And they're helping us to bring those
So
along.
like the city of O'Fallon is actually working. Well, that's a great partnership.
Yeah.
Wow. That's great. Yeah, I think that it's probably a much needed space in O'Fallon. So that's wonderful. So you've had your own photography business for a number of years. You said 23 years. 23, congratulations.
Thanks.
And I believe your husband he's also got his own consulting business?
He does. So we're both self-employed.
Yeah.
He has a consulting business for safety. He also teaches first aid, and he does a lot of stuff that I don't quite understand.
That's all right.
It's
Yeah. I mean, my wife, she has a cake design and bakery business, and sometimes she gets really into some of those intricacies of all that, and I don't always. Oh, okay, awesome, but no, I get it. So and you're a mother. So
Correct.
what does that look like?
So that looks like I have a son who is a high school senior.
Yeah.
He's 18. He just was awarded Eagle Scout.
Oh, congratulations!
Thanks. We're very blessed with him.
Yeah.
God has big plans for him.
Yes,
But
definitely.
being the mother of a teenager, your role does shift and change, and the dynamic changes. And some of it I've embraced, and some of it I've been not so happy about. But
yeah,
everybody has to grow up.
Right. So you have the one son?
I just have one.
Okay, that's wonderful. So you've got to spoil him his entire life, right?
I hope not. I hope not.
No, but so and how long have you and your husband both been self-employed?
Well, I've been self-employed for a long time. 95, I think.
Okay, awesome.
Randy has been self-employed. It'll be 2 years, I think, in May.
Awesome. So you definitely are very. I mean, since '95. So for you balancing the business and family, you've done that for many years. But it always changes. That you said, especially going into the teenage years and trying to figure out how to. It can be a struggle trying to maintain that relationship with an 18-year-old, right? Because you don't want it just to be hello, goodbye. Whenever they actually come back home.
Right.
So. Tell me a little bit how that's kind of changed for you. How you define success in that relationship, over the course of time.
Success in the relationship with Caleb?
Yeah, your son.
Really just in the way that he still will talk to me.
That's huge. That's huge.
That is huge.
Yeah.
And so I think that is a success. And,
yeah.
Watching him when he goes out into the world, very good example. So he went with me to Joanne Fabrics on Sunday.
Yeah.
And he stood in line for me. And as he was standing in line, and because there were a lot of people there, he began to chat with the gentleman behind him. And so I gathered the rest of my little nesting things, and I came in, and his wife, the gentleman's wife, showed up. And so within about 3 minutes, she looks at me and she goes, "Is this your son?" And I go, "Yeah." She goes, "He's really impressive. And I've only been here for about 3 minutes." She goes, "His mind is just going all the time." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I believe that God has big plans for him." She goes, "I believe so. And I've only been here for now about 5 minutes."
Wow.
So success is in seeing what he does and how he helps bring smiles to other people's face.
Yeah.
And that he blesses them just by what he says and shares.
That's great. Well, I mean, having a son be an Eagle Scout is, a huge, I think, success in and of itself. Being able to encourage him to keep up with that commitment and see it through, because that's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work for him, and it's a lot of work for the parents. Right.
So. And so to that end, being self-employed, especially maybe so he just earned it. So even over the past couple of years where your husband's been self-employed as well,
right.
I'm sure there's been kind of a balance back and forth of how do you support him in doing that. So now, how would you say that, you've managed to be able to be there for him, but yet continue the business growth over the years?
So I'm going to be very transparent and honest, which sometimes kicks you in the hiney.
Yeah,
but there are days where I don't do that very well. And
so you're
really
a human
ugly.
being.
I am a human being.
Oh, okay.
And I definitely announce and profess that I am a failure in many areas of my life. But in the biggest scheme of it, I believe that the reason that we're here on this earth is relationships.
I love it.
And at the end of the day, you still say that, you know what, I screwed up. Or this is what I did. Or this is what I did well. And you move forward. So finding the balance as mom, wife, business owner, daughter, sister, etc. It is a struggle.
Yeah.
Especially for, I don't want to put women on this platform because men struggle with it also.
It's different.
It is different.
It's just a different way.
There are days that I feel like that I've let my son down because
Yeah.
we haven't been there for dinner because I've been at work until 3 or 4 in the morning, and then I don't see him.
Right.
Because I'm asleep, and then he goes to school. But
right.
You know, we do have those hard conversations, and I just say, "Hey, bud, thanks for supporting me, and it's worth it." And so he sees the hard work.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not. Maybe I haven't done it the best way or the way that someone thinks I should have. But at the end of the day, it's about each other.
Yeah.
And I'm most important to me is relationships.
Well, first of all, you can't have success without failure.
Correct.
So I love the transparency, and part of this show is supposed to be about that transparency, because oftentimes we just kind of see, you know, the success, right? Like, you know, business owner, all of a sudden they're overnight success.
Right.
But there's a journey that we have to go through that doesn't always feel like success to finally get there. We have to go through a lot of hardships and pain to finally, you know, reach that pinnacle point of whatever we define of where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe wherever we're called, you know, from you know, more of a spiritual perspective. But to that end, I think that what I heard there was, you know, for you, for success is being able to be introspective, having enough of that, you know, personal insight to be able to say, you know what, I could have done that better, and always striving to improve that relationship, and that ever-changing relationship as you raise a kid from, you know, the kid who always looks up with you, can't get enough time with you, to somebody who's like, hey, you know, hey, you want to come over? And, you know, you have to reach out to them to try to get them to spend time with you. It's a huge shift, because I've got a 4-year-old and a 13-year-old, so I get to see, you know, the interestingly, you know, the different dynamics. But I mean, to your point of transparency, hopefully this makes you feel a little bit better. I mean, just last night I went to a networking event, you know, and I kind of like drug my feet. Oh, should I go there? I want to spend more time with the family, but you know, I'm, you know, trying to do business development stuff like everybody else. And went a little bit late, and then my wife had me go to the store and had to pick up some things, and then I had to run and go get some food. And you know, I always try to spend some time with the kids at night. And you know, my 4-year-old, you know, she was upset that we didn't get to play Barbies last night, you know, and I'm like, you know, it's late, it's time to go to bed, I'm sorry, you know, and so I had to explain that to her too. So I mean, we all have those days where it's like, you know, it didn't quite go according to plan.
Right.
So.
Well, and also not just success with my son and that,
Yeah.
but with everyone that comes into the space.
Yeah.
Because when they come in, they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
To maybe have a conversation, maybe to be inspired by a piece of art, maybe to work there, to enjoy coffee. You know, there's so many things that happen in there, and we just want to be that space where ideas gather and people create.
Yeah.
And so that's a success too, even though there are days where I'm like, how in the world are we going to pay certain bills? You know, success for me is about hopefully touching people's lives and changing them in a positive way.
Right.
To help change the community.
Right.
And that includes my son and the artist and whoever walks in.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember I visited a little while back, and this dad and this daughter come in. And it was apparent from that conversation that maybe the daughter isn't always maybe understood by her peers. She's looking for some sort of creative outlet. She's a little shy, but she seemed to be really excited to be there and to have that space near her house. And that right there, I think, is a big impact. Is sometimes creatives don't feel understood by people who are not quite in that same, as passionate about, you know, art that same way. So do you feel like, you know, in this space that's kind of what you're trying to do to help bring the artist community together, help them to feel understood, and then give them an outlet, a way to be able to pursue that passion? Absolutely.
You know, creatives and artists and makers, we all come from different backgrounds.
Right.
We all have different stories.
Of course.
That's why everybody has a story.
Yeah.
But the space is a place where they have the freedom to come in and to have a conversation or to not have a conversation. But we want it to be a positive space for them and a welcoming space.
Absolutely.
That they can just feed off that energy and create or do whatever it is they need to do that day.
Yeah.
And working with artists is difficult. They're human beings also.
Right.
You know, one of my experiences at the Foundry is, you know, I was trying to do something and it was really like herding cats. And if you've ever herded cattle, that's a challenge in itself, but try to herd cats.
Right, right.
And so the space has its challenges, but at the same time we have huge successes on a weekly and daily basis. Yeah.
Well, I mean, people in the creative community oftentimes can be very particular about their vision, which because that's a self-expression, right? And
Right.
that's fair. I mean that's self-expression. I mean, in any sort of profession of what we do, I mean, it is an expression of what we, of us and our capacities and everything. So, so that I mean makes a lot of sense that everybody's got a particular vision and they kind of want to see it through. But I mean, how do you feel like you kind of corral that and get people on the same page?
First off, by expressing who I am, honestly. And again, I've already said I make mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah,
that's one thing I don't hide. But we have a resident artist there, Paul Brewer.
Yeah.
And he and I are so much on the same page, and it's wonderful.
That's good. That's good.
There are artists out there, and we're still looking for a few artists to join our space and to join the team. And again, there's a fine line, and there's a place for everyone. We just want to meet them where they are, and I think that's what I do. I try very hard and work diligently at meeting people where they are. It's not always reciprocated. Right. And that's sad.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
Well, I mean, you have that in every respect. I mean,
yep.
You've got, you're building a team. It's a little bit of a different team. It's not necessarily employees. It's people who are potentially, renting the space from you. But it still has to be kind of a cohesive group, a cohesive team that works together to a common vision if you really want to see it grow.
Exactly.
So you still have to find the right people that are kind of on the same page, or at least that you guys can have that open communication whenever there's a different vision and figure that out. So,
right.
I mean, so you've got all these different creatives in there. Do you try to kind of run it like as a democracy? Do you try to just get feedback and try to kind of figure out what the best solution is? Like, do you get everybody together and start whiteboarding stuff? I mean, like, what does that process look like?
So I have definitely asked for the flexibility to adjust.
Yeah.
So communication is key.
Yeah.
So we all have to talk to one another.
Right.
And that's where, when communication stops, then that's where I've noticed that we've had breakdowns.
Yeah.
And so I'm still learning.
Yeah.
I'm an artist.
Right.
I seriously just want to be able to create. And God and I actually had this conversation yet again this morning. Is like, okay, really, what do you want me to do here?
Right.
I believe we have followed your direction to create this space. What is it that you want me to do?
Yeah.
And just being faithful.
Yeah.
And adjusting and figuring out, again, what is it that the needs are? Where are their needs? What is it they're looking for? Artists need exposure. So that means we need people to come in. We need people to bond, to create together. Yeah. And I'm going to tie this into, we meet at the farm table. So the table, I mean, I grew up on a farm, so we had a farm table. Right. And the name is Farm Table Creative. So when we're at a table right now having a conversation, so we eat at the table, we pray at the table, we cry, we laugh, we do homework at the table. The table is an integral part of our lives.
It's almost kind of a character in the story of your life.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And so many tables can probably tell a lot of stories if they could talk. Right. So we meet at the table as often as we need, and sometimes it's not been as enough. But that's where we just make adjustments and go, okay, we need to have a conversation. And we find out what everybody needs and what's going on. So that's how we're handling it. I don't want to say it's a democracy. I'm not the one that goes, oh, I'm the big almighty, and that's not me. Right. We have to work together as a team. Right. So effectively, it's a team, but you kind of come together almost like a family over the dinner table, as a family would. And so you're getting the feedback just as you would, with the family. But even with your son, maybe you meet at the table and your husband. But maybe you meet at the table, but sometimes you just have to, you get feedback, but you just kind of have to make the call. Right.
You know, which is fair. I mean, but I wanted to swing back around though to kind of what you were talking about, that this business too. It's not just. I mean, you saw an opportunity, right? I mean, you saw a need, I should say, more so, in the O'Fallon community, but you also felt a personal spiritual calling, and that's part of success in life. You know, there's a lot of folks out there that identify with a spiritual calling for the business. I do. So tell me more about, you know, that walk. So you kind of first felt the call, and probably like most people, you probably kind of like tried to ignore it.
I did.
But you know, you're walking down this path, and what has that journey been like for you?
There's been really, really beautiful sunsets and sunrises, and then there's been massive storms.
Right.
But yes, I did ignore it. You know, it's extremely risky.
Yes.
To do what we have done.
Right.
And to have the community embrace us, which they have. Getting the word out to what we do and to get them to understand what our space is about and what we offer the community has been a little bit of a challenge, because we're not your, hey, come buy our soap or come buy our coffee or come buy our art. It's bigger than that.
Right.
And so that's where I have to keep that in perspective. But being faithful to that calling is extremely important in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And it is to me. You know, we've had a wedding in there, and that whole wedding happened. You know, I couldn't even create how that happened.
Yeah.
And I had just happened to purchase and build a design and a set for her exact colors of her wedding. Mm-hmm. They were going to have it outside. It was raining. You know, it happened in 4 days.
Amazing.
It was just amazing.
So going back on that point,
right.
You know, that calling of being, you know, where you're supposed to be when you're called to be there. You know, you were there for that couple, and that in a situation that could have been disastrous for them. On the morning show, actually, earlier we were talking about you know, rain on a wedding day. But yeah, I mean, it could have been horrible because they would have had to try to move it inside, and it just wouldn't have been as wonderful as how it just somehow worked out with you, even with the right wedding colors that you already had there. So, I mean, that's probably a little bit more than coincidence, I would say. So
I think so.
And that was a pretty powerful moment for you, wasn't it?
It was.
Pretty affirming.
It was.
Yeah. A moment where you felt like, you know what, even though you've got the storms, you felt like you're successfully. It's some affirmation of some success in following that calling. So that's great. That's great. So I wanted to we're kind of getting tight on time here. Mm-hmm. I wanted to also again circle back around. We got about 2 minutes. For the listeners out there, there's probably a lot of business owners that they kind of do what they love. Maybe their business isn't geared towards art, but they need some sort of self-expression, or they've got kids, or maybe they are artists and they need a space. I mean, tell me about the environment that you're trying to create there that might help them with their kids, or for themselves as a place for expression. Like what does that look like? So
our logo or little slogan is where ideas gather and people create.
Right.
So the space has been created where people can come in, you can become a member of Farm Table, you can work there, you can create there, you can join us on a Thursday weekday workshop. We have ladies project night, and we're actually just going to call that project night, where you can resurrect the skeleton projects in your closet and come work on them. And we just want to be a place where we support one another and we build community.
That's wonderful.
So our society needs that.
Definitely, especially in the artistic space. Whenever you have school programs sometimes being cut around art, but it's a huge outlet for people. So if anybody needs to get a hold of you or find your space, how would they do that?
So our website is under development, but it's farmtablecreative.com, and you can reach us on Facebook as Farm Table Creative Facebook.
Right.
And then we're also on Instagram, and
Yeah.
then you can find me on Spring Renee.
Okay. What's a good number for you? Do you have an office number?
We do. So 314-412-6987.
All right. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today.
You're welcome.
And I think that for the creatives out there especially, it's going to really resonate with them. So this was Matt Barbie with Spring Renee on Time for Success, Business Owner Moms. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
All right. Awesome.
Hey.
Awesome. And thank you, Angela
Oh,
Myers,
bye.
Jim Mascara. Oh, there you go. See you guys. Thanks for watching.